Hi, I'm your host, Isaac Mack. Welcome to the MCC. Joining me today is Ms. Sara Habeb. Sara is the branch manager of the Commonwealth Bank of Australia and leads one of the largest CBA sites in Sydney. Sara has a Bachelor of Business and Commerce, majoring in management. She's also completed an advanced diploma in management and finance. She's got a great story to tell us. So Sara, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Isaac.
Firstly, I've got to ask you something. I had a bit of a stalk on your Facebook the other day, and I saw that you posted a a 2-minute video of you bungee jumping.
Yes.
Tell me how was that, and
Yeah.
what possessed you, or what inspired you to do something like that? It was a few years ago, yeah?
Yeah, it was a few years ago. Actually, it was back in 2013 when I went over to Queenstown in New Zealand.
Yeah.
I love adventures like that. So I enjoy that. I actually went there wanting to do bungee. I was doing the swing. I don't know if you've heard about the 175 meters between two mountains, a swing. So it's basically a big swing.
Yeah.
They hold you at the top and then they let the swing go, and then you just kind of go from one mountain to the other. I did that, and my friends did bungee. Yeah, and I'm like, no, I cannot do bungee. And it was 2 days just before I left Queenstown. I said, I can't leave Queenstown without doing bungee. So it's pretty popular there. People go there to do that.
Is it one
and
of the highest in the world?
I got to go do it.
Is it one of the highest in the
It's
world?
one of the highest, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I believe so. I think there's one in I'm not sure if it's in Japan or Dubai, which is from a very, very tall building. I'm not sure how many meters that is, but the one in Queenstown, there's 3 different ones. So I actually did the largest there, which was about 140 meters.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So yeah.
I've got to say though, the swing sounds worse.
You know what? Actually, once I did the bungee, I found out that the swing was a lot more scarier.
Yeah, that sounds
a lot more scarier. Yeah, a lot more scarier. But I've done skydiving as well. So I really enjoy things like that. Skydiving is pretty awesome. It's like a refresh button that you press, and you just get it done, and you're like, oh my god. Yeah, so it's pretty good. If you're afraid of heights,
it's an instant cure, you reckon?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, right.
Sorry?
I said, is it an instant cure for fear of heights, do you think?
I don't know how if you say that, you mean cure, like you mean feel better about heights? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Once you do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on the person.
Yeah. Could end up being.
I don't know if you want to challenge yourself. Exactly. It could be worse. So I don't know if you want to put yourself in that position. You don't want to have a heart attack while you're doing it. Yeah.
No. So you are someone that I suppose looks for these. Do you do this not on regular, but you do like finding these thrill-seeking things and maybe getting out? Is it because it gets you out of your comfort zone, or why do you do it?
It does. It makes me feel accomplished. So I know, I know a lot of people out there would not risk their lives to do that. You know, I didn't tell my family when I went and did it. I came back with a video and I put it on, and my parents were just like, how can you do this? How can you do this without telling us? And it's all these doubts, right? Doubts that you have in your mind, and once you do it, you feel good about it. You know, you feel accomplished. Yeah.
Like a release of all that.
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's. I mean, it's hard to sometimes get your head around that. I come from an engineering background before my days in business and sales, and in engineers you're taught to actually find problems in these things. So I think my fellow engineers out there would probably struggle with it the most.
They would, especially if you're looking for problems. What could go wrong, right? What could go wrong? It's hard. You just got to go for it. Get it done, and then you get to see how it feels.
So do you have another, like, what's next? Do you have something else you'd love to do once this whole COVID thing blows over?
Is over. Um, I don't. I haven't done paragliding. That's something that I'd like to
Okay.
do in maybe Austria.
Yeah, nice.
With all that landscape.
Yeah.
Whether it is Switzerland or Austria. Doing the bridge climb, the Habeb bridge climb, that doesn't really excite me, but that's something I could do here, even now, before it's too bad with COVID. But yeah, definitely paragliding over Austria. Yeah, over in Austria, that'll be good.
I love it. Um,
Yeah,
so take us through your journey. I know you're not born in Australia, right? You're born in Iraq like myself.
correct. Yes.
And what take us through your journey. So how old were you when you
Yeah.
left?
Yep. So I was born in Iraq, Mosul. So
Oh,
we lived
and
in
you,
Mosul for a few years. Then yeah, yeah, and then we moved to obviously to our village, which is to Liskov.
okay.
That's where both of my parents are. And I left Iraq when I was about in year five, so going to year six.
Okay.
So that's about yeah, about 11 years old,
Yep.
11 to 12 years. And what we did, we migrated to Turkey. We stayed in Turkey for 3 years and a half. Obviously, there was no school there, so I missed 3 years and a half of school. We were
Age.
all kind of working. We needed to work to survive. The drill. We both come from a
Yeah.
country where it's been in war for about 45 years. So leaving
Yeah.
that place, migrating for a better place,
Mm.
it was pretty a struggle. I don't have good memories
Yeah.
looking back, but looking back now, I do realize the person I am, and I wouldn't take back those memories. Because of those memories, because of those experiences, it made me a more of a resilient person. But yeah, stayed there for 3 years and a half, and we finally got our sponsorship accepted through my father's cousin to come to Australia,
Yep.
and that was back in 2003.
Okay.
So just kind of, I think, turning 15, 16.
Mm.
And yeah, so spent 2 years in learning English. So obviously I couldn't speak English before.
Right.
And then once we did that, I went into year 11. So I think I did 6 months of year 10 and then
Yep.
went into year 11. So yeah, so I graduated high school here in Australia, but altogether it was about 5 years with no school. So it was pretty difficult.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do all the fancy subjects, like biology or chemistry or advanced maths. I just couldn't. I wasn't in the right mindset, right? So I did all the easy ones. So it was like ESL, English, general maths, business studies. So nothing fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, really disappointing. Wasn't able to get the ATA that I wanted. I really wanted to go to university. Both of my brothers and sisters were kind of gone straight into work, and
Mm.
wanted to be the one in the family to do that, to make my parents proud. Obviously, bringing us to Australia.
Yeah.
But that's where I went to TAFE, a opportunity to kind of graduate from my advanced diploma,
Yep.
then went into university. So that was a pretty good experience. I think university was the environment where I got out of my comfort zone,
Yeah.
where I kind of spread my wings. I didn't spend a lot of time around people from my community, so I learned a lot more in terms of the language and the culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, while I was studying at the university, I worked at Woolworths. So 5 years at Woolworths as a
Hey,
part timer,
you learn
which
you
was
learn a lot
good.
in
It
the words.
gave me, sorry.
You learn a lot
Yes,
when you
you
work.
do.
I
You
did
do
the same when I was at
actually.
uni.
It was my first job in Australia. So,
Yeah, right.
sorry.
I was saying I did the same when I was in university. I worked in Woolworths for 2 years. You do learn a fair bit about good systems and how a company operates.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a safe job, right? It's a safe job, and it's rostered.
Yeah,
So, you get to take time off if you needed to study for your subjects or for your exams,
yeah,
and yeah, very flexible for uni students.
yeah.
Yeah, and come up to 5 years, obviously at Woolworths. So I studied while I was at high school as well. My dad always wanted me to be a teacher.
Okay.
I wasn't I wasn't going towards that. Yeah, there's a bit of a teacher in a manager, which is
Yeah,
good. So,
absolutely.
but it was just after I graduated, my dad said, "Why don't you try a bank?" Yeah, and I went in for my first interview. I didn't get through.
Mm,
The second time I applied, I actually got through as a teller. So that's where I kind of started in the bank.
mm.
You needed simple customer service skills back then,
Yeah.
for a teller's job, and I had that from my previous job, which was good. So it set me up for it.
Good, good.
Yeah, and now coming up to 10 years, so my long service leave at the Commonwealth Bank, which is good, exciting. I
10
get
years.
three
Wow.
months long service leave paid, which is good. Yeah.
Look,
And yeah, I've been doing, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying that's good. It's good work.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I've been in the leadership role for the last 5 years in the Commonwealth Bank,
Okay.
and I've managed quite a few branches in the Sydney region. Yeah, which is it's been good. Been a really great journey.
Yeah. Look, I mean, listening to your story, it reminds me of, I suppose a lot of people within our culture who are born here, sometimes I'll be the one to say it, they don't know how good they've got it. Because, I mean, listening to you missing 5 years of schooling, and not many people go through stuff like that. I've got relatives that, are very well established engineers, professionals back in Iraq, and they came here and they had to go back to uni because even their amazing, I suppose, achievements weren't even recognised, and neither was their
Yeah.
education. So it's like going back and really starting from scratch. A lot of people had to do that. So it's a good reminder to be grateful for I suppose the privilege we have in this country, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely goes to teach you how to be grateful.
Yeah,
Because I know the journey that I've had here in Australia. I would have not definitely had overseas in
yeah,
these current environments, right?
yeah.
And it just goes to show me that I need to make the most out of it. And you're right. You know, people like us, we do go through a lot to be where we are,
Mm.
and it's all part of how it builds your resiliency as a person.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of
Mm,
times people do ask me personally, do you have mentors? And I've had mentors all throughout my life.
yeah,
And sometimes I get asked, where do you get strength from? And a lot of the strength I draw from is, my father, my grandfather, people within my family that went through
yeah,
some, and even faced some horrific situations. And I look at them now and they're successful at what they do. They don't have any, I suppose, victim mentality. They're getting on with life and they're actually doing really well. And if you spoke to them from an outsider looking in, you never know they've been through struggles, because they actually
yeah.
they still live in the moment. So that's a lot of times where I get a lot of my inspiration
Mm.
from. So you've been in a leadership role now for 5 years. Is that something that you wanted to do? Like, did you see yourself when you were younger being a leader?
Yeah, funny you say that because I've when I became a branch manager in the bank, people that I knew always kind of related back to that and said, "Wow, we get to see why you're in that role because of all the things that you've been." Like my auntie used to say, you used to grab all the kids when you were young, in the neighborhood, grab all the
Organizer?
kids back in Iraq and, play, organize. She goes, you always did that from when you were 5 years old. 6 years old, 10 years old. She goes, we get to see why you're in that leadership role. And she was right. As a person, it's funny because you don't remember these things, right? It's funny because I've always been in like church committees, uni committee, university committees, and I've always wanted to be part of that.
Yeah.
Leading a group, influencing people. But with me, I never struggled with what I wanted to do. I know a lot of people out there takes them a very long time to decide what they want to be or what they want to do, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But with me, I've always known what I wanted to do. I'm not sure if it's to do with my dad. My dad comes from a management background as well, so I'm not sure if I get it from him, but I've always known what I wanted to do. So from graduating from high school, getting into uni, and obviously getting into the workforce as well, I've always known what I wanted to do. And I guess it's all about how that makes me feel as a person in that role, in the leadership role. Does that give me personal satisfaction? Definitely. If I am part of someone who has grown as a person, have become something in their life, or added value to their journey, that makes me feel good as a human being.
Yeah. I can relate to that. So I like the fact that you use the word leader a lot rather than a boss or a manager.
Yeah.
What would you say, I suppose, the difference between a boss or a manager versus a leader?
Yeah, look, definitely. I do use that a lot because I'd like to think that I've my journey has, I'd like to think that my journey has been about leadership, not managing people.
Yep.
If I want to lead a business, grow a business, and grow the people within as well, a manager might not see it, right? I spend more managing day to day, managing the business in terms of process, rather than dealing with people. So one of the examples is, for example, delegation. So where there's certain tasks that need to be done in the business, as a manager, you might just get that done or tell someone to get it done. As a leader, it's all about how can I use that tool to grow people? How can I lead them in the right direction? You always have a vision as a leader. Where do you want to get to? And how do you also incorporate your team, so the people that you're leading, they have their own vision as well. How do you incorporate their vision within your vision to be able to reach that goal? Yeah, that's how I see as a leader is. A leader influences the person, whether it is personally or at work. For example, some people might not have confidence. How as a leader, how can you help that person grow that confidence within them? And it's something you would notice not just at work. It might be something even outside work, right? There's other factors that play. And with leadership, you get to find out what's under that iceberg, right? What's playing out that makes that person feel that way. Rather than a manager, it's all about processes.
Yeah, you hear the word micromanagement used, and I didn't know what that meant until I was micromanaged. And it was not a good experience, and it taught me when I got into leadership roles, never to do that, because that comes from a position of lack of trust, from your staff, and the opposite of empowering people. It's just managing and not having an expectation that people will actually do the right thing or rise to the occasion. So you're spot on in terms of I suppose how to lead people. I was going to ask you, I suppose you get, one thing is I hear a lot of times people talk about IQ, people get hung up on, your IQ, how's your IQ and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm liking hearing is people are now more talking about EQ, which is emotional intelligence. I believe that's a big thing in a leadership role. Would you agree?
Yeah, look, definitely.
Why is
You're
that?
right. Yeah, for so long, IQ was something so big, right, in
Yeah,
leadership. But you're not really you're dealing with human beings.
yeah,
IQ is one thing to an extent, but emotional intelligence is on a different scale.
yeah,
Um, uh, as a leader, right? I say again, as a leader, not as a manager.
yeah,
Um, for you to be able to influence and drive people, and know what drives them, is
mm,
you really need to understand how to lead them. And it's all about emotional intelligence. Is all about, one is you're being self-aware of your own emotions, right?
okay,
Because that can play a big part on your people.
right,
And second, the emotions of others, right? And
yeah,
and once you understand that and identify certain emotions, it's then about managing them. How do I manage them, and how do I base my decisions on logic and not just how I feel and how that person feels?
mm,
Because it can have a big impact at the end of the day, in the long run, on the team morale, but
mm,
also on the business. And another thing is empathy, right? These days, when you hear that people quit their jobs, right?
yeah.
They don't quit the company; they quit because of
People that work.
how, yeah, people work for people,
Yeah,
right? People work for people, and empathy is very big. And what's important is you don't confuse um, sympathy for empathy. Empathy for sympathy,
yeah,
right? Sympathy is one thing, and empathy is another thing. So how can you differentiate between the two, and how can you manage it as well?
yeah,
And then, yeah, and social skills, right, at the back of that,
yeah.
how you create your relationships after you identify and understand certain emotions. Because I said again, it's what's lying under that iceberg, right?
Yeah.
And if you just base your decisions and how you react to certain situations based on your emotions, it might not result in a good outcome for
Mm.
you and for your people as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of, from what you're saying, emotional intelligence is a lot about um, understanding basically how your actions, your processes, your behavior emotionally, I suppose, affects people, and understanding how, um, to tap into those emotions to get the best out of them as well. Is that a fair, I suppose, summary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. As a leader, how you react in the business, understanding your own
Connecting as well.
emotions.
Yep.
You know, you don't want to be known as someone who has mood swings, right? As a leader, comes in 4 different moods a day. How do you think
Yeah.
your people would feel about that?
Mm.
And how that impacts on others. Yeah.
Yeah.
And identifying these warning signs, right? Being able to identify them, understand them,
Mm.
so recognizing them, and then being able to tap into that, and look at, okay, how can I now be in control of my own emotions and
Mm.
in control of other people's emotions as well.
So then I guess what this is why there is so much information and, I suppose, help, the self-development industry. There's so many books now. There's a lot of stuff. I've said it on a few interviews. I think it some and for a lot of people it's quite confusing because there's so much information out there. But there's some great people that I know you're a fan of Simon Sinek, for example. There's a lot of, and as am I. He's brilliant in terms of what he talks about leadership, how to be a true leader. But there is, like I said, there's a lot out there for people. But I think that's why there's such an emphasis now on finding that good balance in life, because rather than actually a lot of information being on how to manage people and how to get the best out of them, it's more about how to actually manage yourself, isn't it? And find that good balance within yourself, because that's when you're most effective. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Like I said, you gotta start with yourself first, right?
Mm.
Understand how you are as a person, what's important to you,
Yeah.
right? What are your values? What matters to you? What's your purpose? And what do you want to achieve at the end of the day, right? It's all about that. And if you don't understand your own emotions, coming to work and, being frustrated or angry and showing that to your team, how would that play out?
Yeah.
How do you think that will reflect on them? And how would that reflect back on the customers, the community that we're in, right?
Mm.
Again, as a leader, um, you're a human, right? Being able to also share a bit of that vulnerability with your team,
Mm. Not a bad thing.
being aware, yeah, it's not a bad thing. People actually respect you more for that because it's not about the position. They get to see that you're a human too, so they get to trust you and open up a lot more. And you'll get the most out of him. You'll be able to know what drives them. You'll be able to understand what's playing out and how you can actually help them, through that journey.
Very good. Well, I haven't shared too much, but I come from a background in management and leadership. Um, I'd be interested to know this about you. How do you stop yourself from getting burnt out? Because I know when you're in a leadership role, a lot of the time you're giving, you're constantly giving, meaning you're giving advice, you're managing all that stuff. You're generally giving of yourself consistently, and that can become draining after a while if you're not putting back good things within yourself. And I've learned from both being someone that didn't manage himself well and did get burnt out to someone that had great health and a great balance. I'd be interested to know how you find how you've actually managed to look after yourself, and have you ever experienced those situations where you did feel like, hey, you know what, I feel like I'm burning out and not taking care of myself?
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree with you. As a leader, it can get lonely sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So you're not a machine.
Yeah.
Again, you're a human being, and again, as a leader, I don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
So I learn as I go as well. And you're right. I have been I've been in situations where for a very long time I didn't know how to look after myself. I didn't know how
Okay.
to balance between work and my own life, right? I used to do 14-hour shifts.
Yeah.
But if I knew how to balance, I would have been still able to get the same results. Does that make sense? Because
That's
as a
good.
leader, if you
Yeah.
can't, yeah, if you can't be effective in a certain period of time, you're not going to be in a longer period of time. It's all
Yeah.
about managing that time. But I, I learned that during, when I became first as a leader. You want to succeed, you want to do great things. You think that burning yourself will really get the most out of you. I mean, the best of you. It's not about that. I kind of realized coming back home, looking at how my parents would see me and what picture that paints to them as well. Was a that was a very a light bulb moment for me, and my role is not about that, right? I need to ensure that I set the right example. A great example of that is during COVID, actually, Isaac. So during COVID, as a leader, you want to make sure that you're there for your people. So you put your people first. So and during COVID, I live with my parents. Both of my parents are over the age of 70, so
Yeah.
they're in that risk
Yeah.
age, right? So I've got that on my mind, that I've got my team as well, because I want my team to be able to be feeling safe coming to work. They're sharing how they're feeling with me, their anxiety,
Yeah.
um, you know, about the unknown, in terms of what's happening. I'm talking about the first wave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you kind of tend to listen to them, listen to your friends, because another colleague will pick up the phone and say, this is what I'm feeling. And
Yeah.
you've got your friends and you've got your family. So you've got all that burden on your shoulder,
Mm.
and you start actually burning out. So your immune system goes down. You start getting sick. So I started getting sick. I started getting cold sores,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I just said, I said,
Paranoia.
I'm not okay. Yeah, I said to myself, I'm actually not okay.
Yeah.
And this year, I should
Sorry, you just cut out there.
First, I should put my own oxygen. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
So I said to myself, I actually need to first put my own oxygen mask on before I go to assist others.
Good.
And that just reminded me, every time I go on a plane, I hear that, right? Don't help someone else, help yourself before you help someone else.
Good.
And that was so true. It is so true. And
so what did you
another
do?
thing,
Did you I suppose tap in more spiritually? Did you do physical work like exercise?
I knew I needed to do something before it got to COVID, right? So gym was my go-to place, right? As soon as I come back from work, I go to the gym for 45 minutes. That's where I switch off.
No.
But during COVID, you still feel that emotions. So one of the things, actually, I reached out to my friends. And we reached out to one of the priests in our church, and we actually tried to organize Bible studies. And this was my time where I could switch off, but also grow my faith on how to deal with it myself first. And it turned out really good. We would just open the Bible, whatever topic came up, we would talk about, and it felt so good. And we got to do something that we never got to do before COVID in our busy lives. It makes you feel like, great, you've put in that time aside to do something good for yourself that will make you resilient, more strong for your own people, family, and your friends. So definitely a meditation was one of them as well, Isaac. Ensuring that I didn't meditate every day, but I ensured I did that once a week, to be able to just reflect back on what I'm feeling. I need to slow down and not switch off from media as well. Switching off from media was a big part. Yeah, definitely switching off from the media. I've got an Apple Watch, so anything that comes through my phone, it would come to my watch. And every time there was a case, it would come up, and you're like, no, I need to switch off from this.
No, I mean, I'm a big advocate for that. Just not even I suppose playing the media at all, like even watching the news and all that stuff. All it does is it creates a negative vibration within yourself anyway, and you start to focus on all those horrible things in the world rather than actually being the best you can be, focusing on what good you can actually do to your community and within yourself. It's I don't know.
Correct.
An old mentor of mine said to me once, don't watch the news, and I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, look, if it gets bad enough, they'll call you. I'll go,
it's true.
All right.
That's true. You would know about it, right?
If there's something that you need to know, you'll hear about it. I said, okay, all right, done.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's all I needed.
Or not let it consume you as well, right? So even though if you get to just kind of watch and see what's happening, it might not. It's what they paint for us, right? But how do you allow that to impact your life, and how much of it consumes you?
Definitely. Look, you've touched on some really good things, especially about balance. For people out there, and I love what you said about Bible studies as well, because that's something when I spoke to our Archbishop about, I had actually some questions for him from the youth that people, were confused or just wanted to ask him. And he did encourage people just to connect with the church more, as well as even get into more Bible studies, because he said himself, even the Bible itself can be quite confusing, because a lot of those scriptures were written in a time where, the language is very different. And when you translate it, it can be a bit confusing. So tapping into, Bible studies, I think helps you not just, I suppose, connect with your faith, but come to a better understanding of what it actually means. If there's some young people out there right now that I suppose are wanting to get in the workforce, or even through this COVID period, have been retrenched and are looking for something to do. When you've probably been in a position where you've hired a lot of people and maybe even let people go. What would you say are some of the qualities that someone needs to have, like your ideal person in a place? What kind of qualities they need to have, aside from talent? what kind of I suppose attitudes and attributes do people need to adopt?
Yeah. Yeah. Look. Definitely having a positive attitude.
Mm.
Something that we always look at is how you can self motivate.
Yeah.
I mean, you can provide clarity, you can provide ability, you can teach that, right?
Yeah.
But you can't teach purpose and motivation.
Mm.
Yeah, and a lot, a lot, a lot to do with the young people these days is they they don't understand the purpose behind what they need to do.
What do you
If
mean?
if you go for a job and you don't, so what I mean by that is if you get into a workforce and you don't enjoy what you're doing,
Mm.
you need to stop doing that and look for something that helps you understand first what lights up a fire within yourself. What would make you give the best of yourself, but also help others to do the same.
Okay.
So if I have to work every day, and I'm not happy, I feel depressed, I'm not happy what I'm doing, I can't find purpose, but I'm still going to work every day. What's that doing to me, and what is it doing to the people around me? What environment am I creating for myself? It
Much
can be a
more
little
like
bit
this.
difficult during these situations. Sorry.
I mean, I can be labelled a bit harsh at times, but that I said it's like a
Yeah.
slow death if you're just
Yeah.
turning up
Yeah.
something that you hate.
Yeah, and just imagine how your team would feel, how what kind of pictures that painting to your customers, obviously depending what type of role you're doing. But is this the life you want to live? And if you have no purpose in what you're doing, I mean, it just depends why you're going to work. Some people go to work for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Some people go to work to pay the bills. They want to be part of that workforce. They don't want to be at home. And some people just go to work because they love what they're doing. And
Mm.
you want to be one of these people, right, that enjoys what they're doing. You're not gonna it's not going to be like winning a lotto every day. No, you have your ups and downs.
Mm.
As a leader, I don't have great days every day, right? I've got some bad days, and
Yeah.
it's about how I manage those days and what opportunities do I see coming out of it. But during COVID, you you need to take you need to make the most out of every opportunity in the meantime that comes out, right?
That's
We
true.
need to appreciate the environment we're in.
Mm.
I mean, the government is helping us, right? But what am I doing as a person? And like you said, if the government is helping me, the time that I have at the moment, and I'm not at work,
Mm.
how am I being useful to my own community?
Good.
You start with home first before you start with your community, right? You start at home. Like Mother Teresa says, start at your own house before you venture out to
Very
do
good.
anything else with other people. But what are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing with your life? And Isaac, it all depends. It all depends on what you value and how you look at life.
Mm. So you look for a positive attitude, someone who's self-motivated, um,
Yeah,
and if someone isn't very positive right now, I mean, I'd like to, chime in here and just say, hey, if you are getting offered a job in this climate, then maybe be very grateful for that opportunity and make the absolute most out of it.
yeah,
A lot of times, I've read about people that went through the Great Depression, World Wars, and all these things,
yeah,
and there were some majorly successful people that came out of that because
yeah.
when they got the opportunity, even if it was the smallest job, they treated that job like it was everything, and as a result,
Correct.
so many other good things happened because they behaved in a way that someone would if there was their own business. Yeah. Um, sorry.
What you make of it at that time.
Yeah.
It's what you make of it at that time will define you as a person.
Yeah. Very good.
Mm.
Um, so you touched on before that you've had some bad days here and there. Have you had times where you've experienced some I suppose, setbacks or failure? And um, yeah, I mean, how did that groom you? I know from what you said before, missing 5 years of schooling, that's a big deal.
Mm.
Was that one of the things that you can recall as a time of failure, or was there other things that you were trying to do and didn't actually get to where you wanted to be?
Yeah, look, definitely at that time when things happened at a certain situation at that time, like I said, I got to develop my self-awareness as I grew as a
Yeah,
person and as a leader as well.
yeah,
You're not born perfect, right? So you're not born um, getting to understand everything and why they're happening, and looking at things positively.
yeah,
But definitely missing 5 years of school, I saw that as a failure, right? Because I could not articulate myself, whether it is in terms of when I needed to do schoolwork or uni work. There was always, I was always kind of not in a group where people scored high distinctions or distinctions, because I just couldn't articulate. It was just the language, right? It held me back. And, you know, going to school and not being at the same level as other people,
mm,
right? Even getting into the workforce, how quick I got to be a manager. The time frame, I set myself that I needed to be a manager in 2 years, right? It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. You just gotta allow yourself to do to take the right steps. Have the
allow
right
yourself to
behaviors.
grow.
Correct. Allow yourself to grow. Allow yourself to learn. Right. You can't say I'm going to learn to play a piano in 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah,
It just doesn't work. Right.
it'd be
You
nice.
might kind of learn the foundations, but you're not going to be you're not going to start playing songs and you know yeah. But that was one of the things you miss. Definitely. When you're young, you're impatient, so you want things right there and then. And yes, I started in the bank, and I had people who started with me who became branch managers earlier than I did, and I saw that as a failure, and I
Yeah,
started doubting my abilities. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'll never be as good as they are, or they're going to move quicker in life. But now, when I look back, I laugh because I laugh at the energy, the time, and the emotions I actually wasted feeling that. All
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Um, because you get to see, like, why. Then you start thinking, who am I as a person? Who have I influenced? And what kind of leader have I become? In a longer period of time rather than in a short period of time, because the more experiences you go through, the
mm,
more you grow as a person, the more resiliency you have,
yeah,
and you learn lessons in life, and you'll be able to handle things differently, right? And I wouldn't, looking back, I don't see that as a failure now. I
yeah.
see that as part of my journey.
You
And
did
if
back
I
then.
didn't have that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
I said you saw it as a failure back then, but not now. It was,
But not now.
yeah,
Definitely not now. And if I was to give advice to someone, I'd say be patient,
yeah,
right? I was a pain for my managers because every day I would do their heads in, about when am I going to do this program? When am I going to be able to do this or that? And it's just about, taking your time. Don't set unrealistic time frames, because that will not help you throughout your journey. It will just kind of be more of a barrier um, yeah, rather than a motivation.
very good. So, how did you get yourself from that mindset? And I've been there. I was a pain for my old managers. How did you get yourself from that mindset of someone who being impatient, just wanting to get to the next step, to actually slowing down and grow? Was it someone that you
Yeah.
worked with that helped you slow down a little bit and be patient, or was it just something that you heard or something happened that made you just go, "Aha, this is how I need to be to
Yeah.
actually get to where I want to be"?
Yeah. At that particular time or moment, you don't, no matter what
What
they
is it?
say to you, if you had a mentor or your own, my own manager telling me all these things, right? It's not about the time frame. It's about what you learn. But
Yeah.
that didn't mean anything to me because I had something in my mind.
Yeah.
I didn't care how, what they were telling me. It's all about, I want it to be in that time frame.
Yeah.
You can't tell. You learn as you go, Isaac. I learned as I go.
Yeah.
But looking back, self-reflection is a very, very important tool in leadership. And when I self-reflect, so if looking back 3 years, I wouldn't self-reflect every day or weekly, right? Because when you self-reflect, you're taking time to think about, for example, how did your day look like, or how did your week? What are some of the things that you achieved in that period of time, or what do you want to do differently?
Yeah.
What do you not want to repeat again? Now I do it more often. I do it on a daily basis, right? It could be every 3 hours. Did I do that right? Did I have the right conversation? Did I show empathy to this person, or did I approach this situation in a certain way, or can I do it differently? But before, I didn't have that skill to be able to understand it, and it's a skill that you grow as you move along in your journey.
Very good. Very good. So, so you do a lot of self-reflection during the day.
Yeah,
What are some
yeah.
other, like, do you have rituals or habits that you do every day that help you, stay on course, stay balanced, and maintain a good mindset to be able to do your job effectively?
Yeah, look, you mentioned Simon Sinek, right? So
Yeah.
I read his books. I would listen to TED Talks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do have a mentor now.
Okay.
I learned that as in my journey as well. You do need someone to be able to kind of bounce off ideas, but learn from them, ask them questions, to kind of lead you in the right direction. And you choose a mentor based on what you want to achieve, right?
Yes.
So the mentor I have is within my workforce, right? It is in a higher position, is an area manager.
Okay.
But a priest can be your mentor,
Yes.
right? Your parents can be your mentors. It's just about how you use people around you, resources around you, how you use you know social media, how you use YouTube, how you use LinkedIn. These days LinkedIn is very popular, right?
Yeah. It's great.
And yeah, it's not just the books these days. There's a lot of things out there that I ensure I tap into to be able to keep up and have a balance, and ensure that I keep myself updated as I go.
And you exercise daily or regularly?
I exercise daily. Yeah, definitely. So F45, I'm in love with F45. It's amazing. It's a very intense workout, but yeah, I just forget about everything. I switch off. Definitely exercise is something that I would say to a lot of people to do. Even if you walk,
Yeah.
important.
Sorry, what was that? It just cut out.
I said it's important emotionally, mentally, and physically as well.
Find that balance. Yeah, very good. I was going to say, you've probably already answered this question, but I'd like to ask this to all our guests. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what would you, what advice would you have for her? Frozen.
Remember,
Sorry, it's just frozen.
can you hear me now?
Yep, good.
Perfect. I'm trying to remember my 18-year-old self. Oh my God.
It's scary.
Definitely in school. So I would definitely be in school.
Yeah.
Um, what I would tell her, um,
Sorry.
I am proud.
Start
I'm
again.
proud of. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear
sorry.
me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. So looking back at my 18-year-old self, I would have definitely taken more risks, and I would have been a lot more social. Myself be a lot more social.
Right.
Don't just have your own group your own friends, right? Because I felt like that's what um, allowed me not to grow a lot more skills as a young um, person.
Mm.
Like I said, it was when I got to uni, so I feel like I did that a bit late.
Yeah.
And don't hold back. Don't be afraid. Try new things. Be uncomfortable.
Mm.
Be uncomfortable. That's what I would tell myself, actually, Isaac. Be uncomfortable, because once you're uncomfortable, this is where you learn. This is where you get to see what you can do as a person. Yeah, be uncomfortable.
I'll play devil's advocate a little bit because I think our culture, in a lot of ways, uh, I have to say it teaches us to be comfortable in a lot of times and to be safe. You
Yeah.
know, as much as I love my families and parents and all that stuff, I think it's something that's embedded in our culture and Western society. The thing I love about it, I've talked to a lot of my relatives and cousins, and I say to them, look, take the best out of both. Take the best out of the Iraqi culture, but also take the best out of the Australian culture. You know, you can blend the two and make a really great person out of yourself. So the qualities that we have that I cherish is our family values, our spirituality, you know, our togetherness, our community, and the qualities that I love about the Western culture that I've, you know, people like Simon Sinek, is they teach people to get uncomfortable. Do not just go to uni, get a job, and just be like everybody else. Do things that scare you a little bit. Do things because they're the things that are actually get the most out of you. The things that scare you are usually the things that are they're going to benefit you the most. Would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
you know what? That's yeah, I totally
Well,
agree.
that wasn't even a question. It was just
I
me waffling on.
no, I know. So, you know what? I definitely know what you're saying, and it takes you a long time once you get a taste of a bit of both cultures.
Yeah,
You don't understand the certain behaviors or things that your family does or asks of you,
yeah,
but you understand the intentions later.
yeah,
Obviously, they've got good intentions, right? I'll give you a great example. There was a job opportunity when I first started in the bank, and it was in the city. And you know, it's about an hour, you know, train ride.
yeah,
But you know, my dad would be like, no, you know, it's a bit far. Don't go and
yeah,
take the risk. But no, I should have gone for it.
yeah,
That would have taught me a lot. You know, there's a high turnover in the city.
yeah. Okay.
Grow a lot more and a lot quicker.
Yeah,
But you know what? I didn't take that opportunity, and it's all about looking back. Why are we doing that? When your parents get to do that, or when your culture do that, I know it's for a good intention. You know, they want you to kind of say comfortable, like you said,
yeah, yeah,
comfortable. Like sometimes when you know, I started as a teller, then you become an assistant manager, and then it would be like more responsibility. It's more headache. And
yeah,
I'll be like, no, it's not about that. I'm too comfortable now. I need a new challenge, you know?
yeah,
It's just the way they look at things and the way we look at things. And yeah, because they want you to be happy. Why would you want more responsibility, right?
yeah,
It's a headache. So they want you to be able to, yeah, not deal with that. But it's not about that. You're right. And you know, back to, you know, Simon sitting or the Western culture, you're right. They do teach you to be uncomfortable. They teach you a lot around how you can understand yourself and
mm,
what you need to do to grow. Yeah. Mm.
brilliant. Um, we'll probably wrap it up. I think you've given a lot of great tips for, especially our youth, in terms of, you know, getting into the workforce and what attributes I think people need to adopt, especially in the climate that we have. So I really appreciate your time and talking to us about leadership as well. Uh, before we let you go, got another question for you. Since you work in banking, what kind of interest rate can you hook me up with and the rest of the church? I have to ask
Ah,
everybody because you know what ethnics are like. I'm joking. You don't have
yeah,
to answer that. Don't worry,
definitely
you don't have
not.
to answer
I'll
that.
try my best. Just get the bishop to give me a call, and I'll try my
Hey,
best.
so that's a special connection. So if you get a
I'll try. I
if
don't
you
know
get
if
a
I can do
connection from the
anything, but
bishop,
I'll try.
you get a case from the bush, you get a better rate. I could just feel my uncle sweating.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. Anyone, just reach out to the bank and get them to review everything fit, and I'm sure they can help you.
Okay. That's fantastic. All right. Well, again, we'll leave it there. We appreciate your time, Sarah. Like, it's been great talking to you. And yeah, we may do this again sometime, and hopefully post COVID,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about this conversation then.
Thank you so much. Thanks for this opportunity, and all the best.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cool. No worries.